Hello friends, today we are going to discuss another chapter of Goh Cheng Leong book, that is Cool Temperate Western Margin, which is also called British type of climate system. Now here in the name of this climate we can see it says temperate, which clearly means that it belongs to the temperate region, that is the region polewards or northwards of Tropic of Cancer and south of Tropic of Capricorn. Western margin means it belongs to the western side of the continent. Britain, where this type of climate is very clearly seen, is located on the western side of Europe. So the western portions of the continents in temperate zone, they experience this type of climate. That is why cool temperate western margin. Now if we see the distribution of this type of climate, then starting from Europe, we see it from Britain to northwest Europe. Here is our Britain or UK, and then we have this northwestern Europe. So we can see that it extends right from Portugal, and we can see that it goes till Norway over here. Similarly, in the North America, we see a very narrow region where British type of climate is experienced. The region is there, the winds, the westerlies which are coming from here, they are blocked by the Rockies mountain over here. Therefore, the effect of these westerlies is confined to a narrow channel, as well as the effect of the ocean currents over is also confined to this narrow channel. That is why it is experienced in a narrow channel, and this is the coastlands of British Columbia. So here we can see high Rockies prevent onshore westerlies from penetrating inland. Therefore, the effect is confined in a very narrow region. British type climate confined to coastal lands of British Columbia. In the southern hemisphere, we see South America, where we have southern Chile, and here we see the British type of climate. It is again confined to a very narrow portion because of again Andes mountains as well as the narrowness of the land over here. And in the Oceania, that is Australia and New Zealand, we see Tasmania, which is an island of Australia country, and then New Zealand, we see that British type of climate can be clearly seen. Now here are the characteristics of this region. It is seen on the western coast of continents under permanent influence of westerlies. So westerlies, they flow from here throughout the year. The region experiences extratropical cyclones. So because it is located in the higher latitudes, extratropical cyclones are experienced over here. Moreover, the extratropical cyclones, they move from west to east. Therefore, the western coast of the continents are exposed to extratropical cyclone. And there is huge influence of oceanic currents. The oceanic currents which flow in this region, they also have huge influence on these regions. In southern hemisphere, narrow landmass and closeness to ocean, it makes or moderates the climate over here, and that is why we have increased maritime nature of climate over here. Now let's see each of these factors in detail one by one. So the first is that this region is under permanent influence of westerlies. So here we can see we have British type climate, here we can say we have British type climate, here also we can see British type climate, and then we have this Tasmania. So these are the regions where we have British type climate. Now if we see these wind movements, we can clearly see that these regions are in westerly zone. We can see over here, we can see right over here, we can also see that these are throughout the year in westerlies. These are very idealized movement of the path of sun as well as the pressure belts, but in reality they are bent. So in reality these regions will always experience westerlies. Westerlies, they move from oceans towards the land on the western margin, and that is why they are able to bring rainfall to these regions. You can see even here westerlies will bring rainfall. Here also westerlies are blowing and they will bring rainfall, and similar is true for here because here is the ocean, so wind will blow in this direction. Now these are the extratropical cyclones. So here in the higher latitudes you can see formation of extratropical cyclones, and because these extratropical cyclones are formed over here, you will see that the regions which are over here, they are experiencing the effect of extratropical cyclones because they are moving from west towards the east. On the equator, we can see these are the tropical cyclones which move from east towards west. Now as discussed, the British type of climate has huge influence of oceanic currents, and that is why it is also called European maritime climate. So these type of climates have used maritime climatic effect, and let's try to understand over here. So let's take the example of Britain, and we can see this is the Gulf Stream which is coming from the equatorial region. It is bringing equatorial waters right up till the British as well as Norwegian regions. Now, if you focus on this region, we can see this is the North Atlantic current. And here is London. At the same latitude, in fact, slightly south, we have Halifax. Both of them are located at almost same latitude. But if we see their temperature profile throughout the year, we can see Halifax has several months which are below 0 degrees Celsius. We can clearly see that there is 1, 2, 3, 4 months where the temperature goes below freezing point. But when we see UK or London, we can clearly see that here there is no month which goes below 0 degrees Celsius, and the reason is the North Atlantic current, because this North Atlantic current which brings the warm water from the tropics, it helps increase the temperature of this region. That is why we see that there is no month in London where the temperature goes below 0 degrees Celsius. For its latitude, London has very good climate and very good temperature. This current, when it goes towards the Norway coast, it does not allow ice formations, and that is why the Norwegian coasts, they can operate throughout the year without formation of ice on those coasts. So here we can see that there is very huge influence of these ocean currents on the climate of this region. This is not only true for Britain, but it is true for all of the regions where we see British type of climate. So here we can see the summary. Europe, especially Great Britain, temperature rarely falls below 0 degrees Celsius due to warm North Atlantic drift current, which is an extension of Gulf Stream from the Atlantic Ocean. Temperature on similar latitudes in Canada falls below 0 degrees Celsius in winter. We have seen that at Halifax, the temperature went for 4 months below 0 degrees Celsius. Then in southern hemisphere, we see narrow landmass and its closeness to ocean, because the landmass is very narrow over here. It is very close to the ocean, and therefore it increases the maritime nature of the climate over here. Similarly, we can see here we have Tasmania and New Zealand, so they are also surrounded by ocean. So we can see that the influence of ocean, it moderates the temperature over here. Even though they are at very high latitudes, you can see that they are close to 40 degrees. Still you will see that the temperature here are not extreme because of the effect of oceans over here. Now let's see the temperature characteristics of these climatic regions. Mean annual temperature between 4.4 degrees Celsius to 15.6 degrees Celsius. So we can see that even though they are in very high latitude, we do not see the temperature go below 0 degrees Celsius. And we can see in the temperature graph of this London, we can see that it is well above 0 degrees Celsius. Warmest month average 17.8 degrees Celsius and coldest month average 4.8 degrees Celsius. If you see the gap between the maximum average monthly temperature and minimum average monthly temperature, we can clearly see that it is small. It is about 13 degrees Celsius, and this is very small for such high latitude. When you will see Siberian region, they will have very high difference in the temperature. In fact, the minimum temperature would touch -30 and -40. Now here the summers are not very warm and heat waves are welcomed. Now remember, heat waves here do not have the same temperature as in India or tropical regions. Heat waves actually means when the temperature is above the average temperature or average maximum temperature of that region for that month by a given threshold. Then we call that it is having heat wave. So the heat waves are welcomed over here because it helps overcome the cold and starts growth. Winters are mild in these regions because of the effect of Gulf Stream. Average temperature never below freezing point, which we have made abundantly clear. Warming effect of Atlantic drift, warm southwesterlies. Remember, the southwesterlies, they are coming from the southern region. So it is moving from a warmer region towards the cooler region. And because of this, what happens that they are carrying warmer air. So when they reach that region, they will increase the temperature of that region. That is why the westerlies, which are coming from south, which is close to the tropics, so warm air reaches the region and helps maintain the temperature. Another thing is that marine stations are warmer compared to interior regions of the same latitude. So if you are around the coastal region, you will have more moderate climate. But if you go into the interior, you will have extreme climate. Night frosts do occur. Snowfall is common in winter. So snowfall is also very common in these regions because of its nearness to the polar region. Sometimes the polar air could reach over here and decrease the temperature. Sometimes unusual cold spells occur caused by invasion of cold polar continental air from interiors. So cold polar airs, they can come from here, they can come from the interior of the land, and they can decrease the temperature and cause snowfall. Climate as a whole is equable, that is, it is moderate. Moderately warm summer, mild winters. Mild winters for the latitude on which these regions are found. Now in southern hemisphere, we have Tasmania, Chile and New Zealand. And there is lack of continental landmass over here. Therefore, extremes of temperature are not possible because the maritime effect, that is the effect of the oceans, it will reduce the temperature. Oceanic influence keeps summer cool, winters very mild. So in winters also the temperature will not go very low below 0 degrees Celsius. That is why for such a high latitude it has very pleasant atmosphere. Now let's see the characteristics of precipitation. Evenly distributed rainfall. We can see that the rainfall is evenly distributed with winter or autumn maximum. So we can see that maximum occurs in the winter or autumn. And it is because of incoming extratropical cyclones. So we have seen in our previous slides that these regions, they experience extratropical cyclones. These extratropical cyclones, they also add to the amount of precipitation in this region. Rain is brought by southwestern westerlies. We have seen that southwestern westerlies, they blow in this direction and they blow from ocean towards the landmass. And that is why they carry moisture from the ocean towards the landmass, and therefore they bring rainfall. Rainfall decreases eastwards with distance from sea. As you move in the interior of these lands, as you move away from the coast, the distance increases and you will see that the rainfall decreases. Very similar to what happens in India. So as you are closer to the western coast, you will have more rainfall. As you move away in Madhya Pradesh or Chhattisgarh, you will see the rainfall slowly decrease. Lowlands have annual rainfall of 50 to 100 centimeter, and local mountains, local topography can alter the amount of rainfall in any given region. Now, the British type of climate, they experience 4 distinct seasons, and these are very clearly expressed in the climatic system over there. First is winter, cloudy skies, foggy and misty morning. We can see there is mist in the morning, fog can occur because of the maritime influence as well as the cooler temperature. Many rainy days from passing depressions. So this region has passing depressions, low pressure depressions because of the extratropical cyclones or due to other atmospheric regions, and therefore rain continues over here. Light snowfalls are expected. So snowfalls are also common, but they are lighter. It does not occur in very huge amount. Snowfall of short duration only occurs. The reason is that the winter is overall milder. The temperature is not very much below freezing point to cause very heavy snowing continuously for days. And therefore the snowfall is only for short duration and in lighter quantity. Highlands, that is the regions which are having higher altitude like mountains or plateaus, the heavy snowfall occurs in winter. Scandinavian mountains and Rocky Mountains are example of their. Sea gales, that is sea winds, are frequent and dangerous. So very fast winds, they will blow in the ocean, which could cause waves to form, and it could be harmful to the ships in the ocean. Now let's see the other 3 seasons of British type of climate, that is spring. It is the driest and most refreshing season. Post-winter surrounding has turned green. In the winter, the trees have shed away their leaves and growth has stopped because of the cold environment. But here we can see that life has again come back to the vegetation. We can see that everything is green. Post-winter surroundings turn green. Summer, long and sunny summer, people enjoy in open. So in summer seasons, we can see that people come in the open, they enjoy the sun because it is not very hot like in tropics. Autumn, gusty winds flow, and fall of leaves. So we can see that leaves fall, they give a unique golden look to the environment, and winds also blow during the autumn season. Now let's see the characteristics of vegetation in the British type of climate. Here we have deciduous forests, which are most common in the region. Trees shed leaves in the cold season and protect themselves from winter snow and frost. So mostly the trees will shed their leaves. You can see this unique yellow colored environment. Golden brown leaves and naked branches can be seen over here. So we can see that the trees, they are golden brown in color and the branches are naked. In spring and summer, thick trunks with outspreading branches. So in spring and summer, you will see that the trunk is thick and the branches are very outspread and they have good timber. Common species: oak, elm, birch and poplar. These are the common species. Better regions will have willows, alder and aspen. So the regions where there is higher amount of rainfall, we will get this type of trees. And then there are other species: chestnut, maple and lime. Now if you see the deciduous trees, then they occur in pure stands, which means that same species of trees are present at the same location. It is easy to obtain timber from them because they are located together and they have some space like this in between them. It is easy to cut them and obtain the timber. Sparse undergrowth allows easy transportation of logs. So we can see that the undergrowth beneath these trees is not that dense like in equatorial climate. Therefore, it is easy to make roads or drag the logs with them. Deciduous hardwood is used for domestic and industrial use. Tasmania, we have temperate eucalyptus trees. On higher mountains, we find conifer trees and they survive in cold climate and poor soil. So, because on the higher mountains, we have cold climate which cannot be tolerated by the deciduous trees, and the poor soil does not provide sufficient nutrition for the deciduous trees. Therefore, we find generally conifer trees over here. Now let's see the economic activities over here. Large forests are cleared for fuel, timber and agriculture. So you can see that forests have been cleared for making way for agriculture, as well as timber is used for making house, making paper, and there are several other industries where the wood can be used. Northwestern Europe are net food importer, especially wheat is imported over here. The reason is land is used for industries and factory. So the lower portion of the land is used for agriculture. So because of the industrialization of this region, most of the land has been converted for factories and other economical activities. Therefore, very small amount of land is available for agriculture. Fishing is also an important occupation in these regions. Because of the climate, there is good chances for fishing. Moreover, most of these regions are along the coast. So, there are naturally fishing activity being done by centuries. Now, let's see the economic activities of this region, where we practice market gardening, mixed farming, sheep rearing and other agriculture activities. So the market gardening is a practice where a small farm is used for cultivating vegetables, fruits or even flowers. And these cultivated products are then transported to the market where they are sold. Now, highly specialized market gardening is done in Northwestern Europe, and the reason is that countries in this region are highly industrialized. Now, because of highly industrialized, there are a lot of people working in these industries and they have good earning and they have no time. They want fresh fruits from the local market, and therefore there is huge demand. Region has high population density. Because of the industries, there is large number of people living in the cities and therefore there is high demand. In fact, there are more cities and towns in this region than any other region in the world. So we have large urban population. Therefore, we have high demand for fresh vegetables, green salads, egg, milk and fruits. And these demand has to be fulfilled by fresh supplies. These things have short shelf life. Therefore, we need local farms. And therefore, these farms are smaller and closer to the city, so that they can quickly harvest the crop and provide it into the market. As soon as they provide it to the market, they could be consumed by the producer. If there is delay, then the products will perish away. There are actually advancements where the crops are cultivated from the field and packed within the field and directly transported to the malls or to the retailers for selling it. Now, the soil fertility is maintained through advanced fertilizer practices. And intensive farming, that is large number of people are involved or manual labor is involved for high yield. Good transport helps perishable products reach market. So transportation is also a very important part of this. The products should be delivered fresh to the customer. Therefore, quick transport after cultivation is required. And that is why advanced type of trucks which have cooling systems are used over here. So these trucks, they form very important element of market gardening because they can deliver the goods even from the interiors to the market. And that is why it is called truck farming. Refrigeration and good transport helps remote regions take market gardening. So if your transportation is good and you have good refrigeration in those transports, then even if you are located far away from the city, you could transport the products in time and fresh. That is why the trucks with modern systems are important. Netherlands is known for horticulture. Transport allows distribution across Western Europe. So whatever things like this, flowers, they are produced in the Netherlands, they could be transported across the Europe because of advanced truck system over there. Mixed farming is another important practice of the British type of climatic regions, where mixed farming could mean two things. The first is mixed farming, where you are growing crops of two different types. However, here we mean farming as well as animal rearing on the same land. Now, farming is done on the tilled lands and pastoral farming is done on the pastures. The animals are used to graze these pastures. Proportion of the animals and crops depends on the price of the crop, agricultural item that you are growing, the soil, the type of soil in that region, and demand for agri products. Animal products include eggs, honey, meat, crops. Wheat is the most intensively grown crop in this region, mainly because most of the Europeans or the people living in these regions are bread consumers. Exports are minimal. Barley is also an important crop for this region. Wheat cultivation is done here mainly for domestic consumption, but wheat is not used for export purposes. If we see US, then very advanced farming is done over there, very large mechanization is done. Similar thing is also possible in Western Europe, but still we do not see that they export a lot of agricultural products. The reason is that land is used for manufacturing and factories, so less land is available for farming. These regions, especially the Western Europe region, it has experienced industrialization. Large part of the lands are used for industries and therefore land availability has been reduced. Competition from new wheat lands. So USA and South America, they started producing wheat which was having lower margin. The European farms could not compete with them. Therefore, they moved on to either industrialization or market gardening, dairy, that is animal rearing and cattle rearing for dairy products, and intensive mixed farming. It is because of competition from these new regions which are producing wheat much efficiently, they moved on to other sources. Barley is the second most important crop grown in these regions after wheat. It is sold to breweries for beer and whiskey production. Malting barley grown in southeastern Britain, while hops are also grown in southeastern Britain. Rainfall should be less than 75 cm for the growth of hops. Both of them are used in production of whiskey or beer. In fact, barley is the most important item for beer or whiskey production. Barley on heavy soil or wetted regions is used for animal fodder. Barley grown in rotation with leguminous crops. It helps to maintain the fertility of the soil. Now let's see the animals which are kept here for mixed farming. Cattle are generally kept and they are very good producer of milk. Dairy cattle are known for milk production. These are the examples of the breeds. Then regions around North Sea is known for advanced cattle rearing. A lot of mechanization and automation is used. Europe is only second to New Zealand in per person milk consumption. So we can see that these regions produces a lot of milk. Many dairy products are also derived. This region is also famous for producing milk as well as its byproducts. Butter, cheese, cream, skimmed milk. Netherlands is specialized in cheese production, while Denmark is known for butter. Switzerland, chocolate and milk products are produced over here. The alpine pastures, that is the high mountain pastures which are found in Switzerland, it is used for cattle grazing. So this is how chocolate and milk can be produced in Switzerland. The milk is obtained from the cattle while the chocolate is imported from Africa. In mixed farming, the animals are not kept just for milk but also for meat. However, the proportion of meat extracted from these animals in the British type of climate is lesser comparison to Argentina or Australia, where the meat is the prime concern for keeping the cattle. Europe imports large amount of meat because of its high consumption. So even though they do not keep cattle for meat, the meat consumption is very high in Europe. Cattle dung is used as manure. Pigs and poultry act as scavengers, that is, they help in clearing whatever waste over is left of the agriculture produce, like there are rotten potatoes, so they are fed to the pigs. Denmark, it is a large bacon exporter. Bacon is pig's meat. Now here they use skimmed milk to feed these pigs. Denmark is also a producer of butter. So when we produce butter, skimmed milk comes out as a byproduct. So they use this byproduct to feed the pig. And this is how butter making, it leads to high bacon export. Other animals are also kept in the mixed farming in British type of climate, which includes chickens. It is kept for meat and egg. Denmark is known for chicken exports. Sheep is kept for wool as well as meat. British Columbia mixed farming is restricted to western lowlands. So we know that British Columbia is a coastal region which is backed by the Rocky Mountains. So a very narrow range is there where we can have mixed farming. Sheep rearing is well developed in British type climate, and it is also an important activity over here. Britain as well as New Zealand, it has good sheep breeds and it is used for mutton and wool. Sheep rearing is done in less favored regions, that is, the regions where the land cannot be utilized for agriculture or for industrialization. Principal sheep areas include foothills of well-drained uplands, chalk and limestone scarplands, light sandy coasts. So we can see these are the regions where agriculture cannot be done, and these are uplands. Therefore, these are used for sheep rearing. UK Pennines is an example. Sheep rearing is also a major occupation in the southern hemisphere, and in New Zealand it is a major economic activity. Greatest concentration of sheep rearing can be seen in Canterbury Plains, and the reason why there is so much sheep rearing over here is that it has extensive meadows which provides natural grazing grounds for sheep. Mild temperature is there, well drained and level ground, so we can see that the ground is level. Scientific breeding is done. Refrigeration allows meat transport. So the meat which is produced, it could be transported to other regions because of the facility of refrigerated transport. Now let's see the other agriculture activities. Potatoes are a staple food over here, and they are used in supplementing wheat. Potatoes, they provide starch, more starch than any other cereals. And it can be cultivated on very wide range of soil and climate. It does not require very specific type of soil or specific type of climate, so it can be grown easily. It prefers cooler climate. Cooler regions are less susceptible to blight. Blight is like a disease to these potato crops, and it leads to their death, and it spreads very fast. Blight virus prefers warmer climate. Therefore, it is grown in cooler climates where there is less infection of blight virus. Europe produces 1/4 of the world potatoes. The potatoes here are mainly now used for animal fodder or industrial alcohol production. Sugar beet is another important crop of this region. It is grown in northeastern Europe, Russia and USA. It is used mainly for sugar production. It is a substitute of tropical sugarcane. This sugar beet is also used for sugar production. Beet is crushed for sugar, and the green tops, these regions, they are used as animal fodder. So this byproduct is also used for animal rearing. High sugar yield occurs when autumn is both dry and sunny. Europe produces more than half of sugar beet production, but only 1/4 of the total sugar produced in the world is produced by sugar beet. With this, we will conclude our video on the British type of climate. If you have liked the video, then do subscribe to the channel and share it with your friends. We are going to cover each climatic region discussed in GC Leong book, so do watch all the videos. If you like what you are doing, then you can support us using the Paytm ID. Thanks for watching the video.